For more than 40 years, we've been sold a myth that America's rich and powerful were under siege, overtaxed, overregulated, carrying the weight of the economy on their shoulders. And that if you ease up regulation on them and they prosper, the benefits will trickle down to the rest of the population. But the reality is that economic policy hasn't even remotely punished the elites in this country. It has simply rewarded them. And it's done so at the direct expense of working people, the middle class, the working class, and the working poor. Let me explain the root of the problem. According to the American Economic Policy Institute, largely because of technology, from 1979 to 2019, U.S. worker productivity grew 59.7%. That meant a worker is 59.7% more productive at their job. But that worker's reward for all that extra output is a 13.7% wage increase over the same period. So putting out 59.7% more work, getting paid 13.7% more. That's a 46% gap. The amount, one might argue, that workers are being underpaid relative to their output. In more practical terms, that's about a $9 an hour in lost potential earnings for a typical worker. Now let's focus on just the middle class for a moment. From 1979 to 2019, middle-income workers saw just 13% growth, as I mentioned, in wages adjusted for inflation. America's lowest-paid workers fared worse, gaining just 3%. But the already high earners, the top 1%, their income is up 160% over the same period. Take the top 0.1%, their income is up 345%. I can do this all day, by the way. I can show you different examples that prove the point that the rich are not getting squeezed or paying more than their fair share of anything. Let's look at it one more way. Take all the income earned by households in the United States in a given year. The share of that total U.S. household income that goes to the middle class was 62% in 1970. By 2022, it had dropped to 43%. The upper income share did the opposite. In 1970, 29% of all income earned by households in America went to the upper class. By 2022, it was up to 48%. These numbers come from the Pew Research Center. Our current politics is focused heavily on trade. Trade has been a major culprit as America made choices to be the world's consumer rather than the world's factory floor. Trade deals like NAFTA, which Donald Trump negotiated into the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, displaced about 683,000 U.S. jobs, mostly in manufacturing. In industrial towns, that wasn't just job loss, it was economic identity loss. The theory was that displaced workers would somehow magically find new jobs. But according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, those who did often saw their annual pay drop by an average of $7,900 when forced into new, generally lower wage work. Youngstown, Ohio is a perfect example. Once a steel powerhouse, it lost about 50 manufacturing jobs in 1977. The U.S. steel industry had over 500,000 manufacturing jobs in the 1970s. By 2015, that was fewer than 142,000. But here's the thing. We're still making steel, and productivity in steel making has soared. Because in 1980, it took more than 10 labor hours to make 1 ton of steel. Today, it takes about half an hour. So that productivity earned the steel makers billions of dollars, but workers didn't get paid more because of it. None of this is inevitable, by the way. It's policy. Tax codes that favor capital gains over wages. Deregulation that strips workers of protections, trade agreements that prioritize corporate margins over community stability. Every one of these decisions tilted the playing field toward the top. There is a way that the corporate profits from these trade deals could have been shared by workers, and some of the extra revenue the government earned from them could have gone to retraining and relocating workers to places where jobs were better, but we didn't do that. We just let the rich get richer, and our industrial towns dwindle into nothing. But that's largely over. America, for better or for worse, has left its position as a global manufacturing titan behind. We are increasingly an information economy, and we need to lean away from trade wars that have no objective and into policy changes that would tilt us back toward regular working people. If we want to reverse this, we have to make deliberate systemic choices. Universal health care, end the tie between jobs and health insurance. Countries with universal systems spend 30 to 50% less per person than we do and get better health outcomes. This is a fact. This reduces the economic insecurity that forces workers to cling to bad jobs for health benefits. Universal and subsidized child care. Affordable child care would free millions, especially women, to fully participate in the workforce. Quebec's subsidized child care model increased female labor force participation and paid for itself in new tax revenues from all those mothers who came back to the workforce. How about a national affordable housing infrastructure plan? Launch a public-private housing initiative to build millions of affordable units, coupled with zoning reform and incentives for mixed-income development. Pair that with strict anti-speculation measures to keep homes in the hands of residents and not investment funds. Right now, individual home buyers are largely being locked out of the housing market because of high home prices and interest rates. But those high prices aren't scaring away investors who got the money to spend and who are dominating the real estate market. According to the property analytics firm Cotality, this year, investors who buy homes to flip or rent have made up about 30% of purchases of existing and newly built single-family homes. 30% are being owned by people who don't live in those houses. How about building resilient clean energy infrastructure? Invest massively in modernizing our grid, expanding solar, wind, and battery storage, hardening our systems against climate shocks. This creates good union jobs while reducing our vulnerability to extreme weather events. How about targeted climate policy? Implement a national carbon price and reinvest revenues into transition assistance for workers in fossil fuel industries. Fund large-scale reforestation, wetland restoration, and urban heat island mitigation projects. We've been told that prosperity trickles down, but it hasn't. It's been sucked upward. And while the top 1% have thrived, everyone else has been told to work harder, retrain, go somewhere with better opportunities, wait your turn. An economy that works for everyone is not a fantasy, it's a choice. We've just been making the wrong one. These policies are not radical. They are a return to the basic American ideal. If you work hard, you should share fairly in the prosperity that you helped to create. It is time for us to choose better.